Welcome back to New World's weekly mutation breakdown. I'm Ty James, your mother's favorite online video game tank, and I'm going to walk you through what this week's mutations are, which dungeons you can expect, how to deal with the mutations, and what you can kind of expect to drop from those mutations. So, if you guys are ready, let's dive right in because we've got a lot of info to cover. All right, let's get in game here. Got my little, what am I running? Oh, this is one of my PvP builds. Anyhow. We're going to go into our activities here. We're going to click on Mutated Expeditions, and you can see the new updated list for this week is Starstone Barrows, The Depths, and Garden of Genesis. What you can expect to drop from Starstone Barrows is your Blood Drinker Ring, the artifact. It can drop from M1, M2, or M3. The Depths, you can drop the Lost Stopwatch artifact, which is an amulet. And then Garden of Genesis, the artifact is Freya's Francisca. It's a hatchet. So, decent little week of mutations, mainly Starstone Burrows. Get that thing knocked out, get your Blood Drinker Ring. I was really hoping, because I dropped my build video yesterday, I was really hoping that they were going to keep Glacial Tarn for this week for you guys, but they didn't. But they at least gave us Starstone, so you guys can start working that best in slot ring. So, let's take a look at what the mutation is. If you're in M1, you're just going to have Icebound. So everything's going to be in ice damage. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about how to mitigate that. So let's talk about what this does. The enemies are going to have the following perks. Heavy and special enemy attacks are going to cause a slow on hit. There's going to be Glacial, which is enemies drop a destructible ice crystal upon death that slows and roots players. Frozen enemies deal 50% of all damage as ice damage. And then Shiver. While in combat, enemies inflict biting cold, dealing damage to players who are not near them. If you are a tank or melee DPS, as long as you stay up onto the enemy, the Shiver is not going to really affect you. So items that have a chance to drop with the following perks in this dungeon is going to be Frost Attunement and Frost Conditioning. Frost Attunement is additional damage as weapon damage as ice. Goes up to 14% at 800 gear score. And then Frost Conditioning, 3% ice damage absorption for 5 seconds after taking ice damage. This can get all the way up to 5%, depending on the gear score. So, say you do the M2 version. It's also going to have Icebound with scaling damage, because it's your M2. And then on top of that, you're also going to get Barbaric. So enemies are going to have the following buffs. Enraged, when hit, enemies are going to generate Fury. At 20 Fury, they're going to become Enraged, dealing 50% increased damage and becoming 15% larger. They're literally going to grow and do more damage. That's actually going to look kind of cool when you're fighting them, I think. Shattering, enemies are going to forego the 25% reduced stamina damage in expeditions. So they're going to actually not have reduced stamina damage, so they're going to do quite a bit. And they're going to deal 40 by 75% increased stamina damage. Additionally, upon breaking your block, they're going to apply a bleed to you, dealing 5-8% base health damage per tick. So that's going to be fun. You're going to want to manage your stamina quite a bit. Make sure you're bringing weapons into here that have skill trees or skill base to help with stamina regen. For example, Spear with Cyclone, Great Sword, Steadfast Purifying Strike, stuff like that. To where you can help manage your stam regen loss when you're exhausted and start boosting your stamina back up. So at M3, it's also going to have Icebound, Scaling. It's going to have Barbaric. And then you are going to be cursed with Fiendish. So as a player, you're going to have the following debuffs on you. Weary. Periodically, it's going to apply Weary to you in combat, slowing your movement by 30%, increasing all damage you take by 20%. Now, this perk can be, or this debuff can be delayed, but it cannot be cleansed. So as you use abilities, you can delay the onset of this debuff, but once you have it, a healer cannot remove it from you. Okay? So it's kind of a little bit of a difference. So as you're using your abilities and you're cycling through your cooldowns, you're going to delay this effect, but once you have it, a healer cannot cleanse it from you. And even if you use your great sword like, Rupture, which has a 2 debuff cleansing, it won't come off. The other debuff you're going to have is Blood Offering. So using abilities, it's going to apply a stack of Offering. It's going to cause 4.5 max health, ice damage. Ice damage, don't forget that. It's ice damage that this is going to cause over time to you. And this can stack 3 times for a total of 13.5% max health damage over time. Now, all players gain 25% lifesteal while they're affected by Offering. So, same thing, you can't cleanse this once you have it. So if you are running Lifestealer's Drought, you're running Anointed Lifesteal's Perks, you're running Blood Drinker, you're basically going to be lifestealing to 100 as long as you're attacking. If you're not attacking, if you're just holding block, you're going to lose quite a bit of health very fast. So that's something to keep in mind. That's one way you're going to deal with that. Okay, so that's what the mutations are. Let's talk about how we can kind of maybe deal with that ice damage. So Cut Pristine Aquamarines are going to be the gems you're going to want to focus. They're going to give you 4% reduction of ice damage and absorption. As far as like shields go, let me see if I have one here. This one has Frost Conditioning. That's decent. Frozen Protection. So grab yourself a shield that has Frozen Protection 2. At 800 gear score, this goes from 8% to 10%. Let me show you that. So grab your shield that has the Frozen Protection 2 perk. So you can take 10% less ice damage inside. And then same thing with Amulet. I don't know if I have my Amulet in my inventory right now that has Frozen. Maybe I don't. It's probably in my storage. But you're going to run an Amulet that has the Frozen 2 protection perk as well. So you gain an extra 10%. Some people have asked, do they stack? As far as we can tell, yes, they actually do still stack. If you go over to your resistances, you'll be able to see like when the element as far as like what your total resistances are, and you'll see that it actually does stack. So I'm not sure why they kind of release that they don't stack. That's kind of weird, but a lot of people are saying it's not stacking, but it actually is. So you're going to run the Amulet, you're going to run the shield, and you're going to run all of Aquamarines in your gem slots, and that's going to get you to around 50, depending on how many gear pieces you have, around a 50% frozen protection from damage. So that's how you're going to deal with a lot of that. The other thing you can do if you watch my build video, is start using your pieces of gear that have frost conditioning. Okay, so grab your wonderful Glacial Tarn set. Make sure that you have frost conditioning as your third perk, and that's just going to give you even more damage reduction to this week's mutations to help you farm out those M3s and get some goodies. But if you're only going for the artifacts, just remember, if you're only going for the artifacts, all you got to do is the M1s. But if you're going for any other gear and it's M2 and M3s, make sure you're bringing your frost protection, or else those things are going to hurt. They're going to slap pretty dang hard. So, all right, that's it. That's all I got for this week. I think I covered everything as far as the mutations go. If I missed something, put it down in the comments and I'll make sure I get that answered for you guys. But other than that, I will see you guys next week for next week's mutation breakdown. And you guys have a great day. Say hi to your mom for me, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, bye.